Something was off with Jessica. I had started noticing it months ago, little things small enough to brush off at first. The way she grabbed her phone a little too quickly when I walked into the room. The way she left the house with a neutral face but came back looking different. Lighter. Like she had stepped into another world while she was out. A world where I did not exist. She was dressing differently, too. Not for me. I knew that much. A woman does not suddenly start making an effort for her husband after over 10 years of marriage. This was for someone else. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. I had never been the jealous type. I was not the kind of man who hovered over his wife's phone or questioned her every move. Jessica had freedom, more than most women I knew. I had never made her feel trapped. So why did it feel like she was slipping away? Then there was Ryan. He had been with us for nearly 3 years. A private driver, always professional, always punctual. The kind of man who knew his place. At least that was what I had thought. He barely spoke unless spoken to, did his job, and kept his head down. I had barely paid attention to him at first. He was just an employee, someone whose presence blended into the background. But Jessica started calling him more often. It was gradual, slow enough that I almost missed it. Before, she would drive herself or take a ride service if I was too busy. Now, it was always Ryan. "I will have Ryan take me," she would say, like it was nothing. At first, it was just errands, doctor's appointments, lunches with friends. Then it became everything. A last-minute trip to the store? Ryan, a shopping day? Ryan, a weekend visit to her sister? Ryan drove her the whole way. And then she started mentioning him. Just little remarks, slipped into conversation like they meant nothing. A joke about how serious he always was. A comment about how reliable he had proven to be. A casual, "He is actually pretty funny once you get to know him." That was when I started paying attention. The first time I caught her looking at him, it was not the way you look at a driver. It was quick, barely there, but I saw it. A flicker in her eyes. A spark of something that made my stomach twist. I did not like it, and I did not ignore my instincts. That was when I decided to do something about it. I had the car wired. Not video, just audio. A small recording device, tucked into the dashboard. Voice activated, subtle enough that it would go unnoticed, but clear enough to capture everything. At first, I hesitated to listen. I told myself I was being ridiculous, invading my own wife's privacy for no reason. I was convinced I would hear nothing, just polite small talk, maybe a few awkward exchanges. I was wrong. The first recording was mostly quiet. Just the hum of the engine, the shuffle of movement, the faint murmur of the radio. Then, her voice. Soft, almost amused. "I cannot stop thinking about yesterday. About you." I stopped breathing. A pause. A deep inhale. Then Ryan's voice, low and tense. "You know we should not be doing this. But I cannot stay away from you." My hands curled into fists. I kept listening. Jessica laughed. A sound I had not heard in years. A quiet, intimate laugh, full of warmth. "I do not even feel guilty anymore," she whispered. Ryan exhaled sharply. Almost a groan. "You should," he muttered. "Why?" It is not like he notices. He is always working, always busy. He barely even realizes when I am gone. A sharp bitterness filled my throat. I had heard enough. I ripped the headphones off, my breath coming fast, my pulse pounding in my ears. I clenched my jaw, staring at the desk in front of me. So this was what I had become. A man too blind to see what was happening right in front of him. Jessica, the woman I had loved, trusted, given everything to. The woman I had built a life with. She had been sneaking around behind my back, whispering stolen words to the man I paid to drive her around. Like some cheap romance novel. Disgust settled deep in my gut. This was not sadness. This was not heartbreak. Those were feelings for men whose wives showed even a shred of guilt. Jessica had not hesitated, had not stumbled, had not even tried to hide her amusement. She had sat in that car and laughed. She had justified herself. I was not heartbroken. I was furious. A rage unlike anything I had ever felt burned in my chest. She had no idea, no clue that I knew. Not yet, but she would. And when she did, she would regret every single word. She would regret everything. I did not sleep that night. I sat in my office, the dim glow of the desk lamp casting long shadows across the walls. My fingers gripped the edge of the desk, so tightly my knuckles turned white. The headset lay in front of me, still plugged into my laptop, mocking me. I did not need to listen again. Every word was burned into my mind. I did not even feel guilty anymore. It is not like he notices. They played on repeat, over and over, taunting me, feeding the fire inside my chest. For years, I had believed betrayal was not something I would have to face. I had seen it happen to others, friends, colleagues, men who came home to find their wives in someone else's bed, men who ignored the signs until it was too late. I had always thought that will not be me, but here I was. My wife had betrayed me with a man I had hired. The insult was just as cutting as the betrayal itself. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to think. There were things I needed to do, steps I needed to take. But first, I had to act normal. I cannot give anything away. Not yet. I pushed back from the desk and stood, rolling my shoulders to loosen the tension coiling in my muscles. The anger had not left, not even close. But I buried it deep. Jessica could not know. Not until I was ready. When I finally walked into the bedroom, the house was silent. The kind of quiet that felt unnatural, like something had shifted beneath the surface. Jessica was already in bed, curled on her side, one leg tucked under the blanket, her breathing slow and even. She looked peaceful, innocent, like the woman I had married. It was all a lie. She stirred as I moved around the room, her eyelids fluttering, a sleepy murmur slipping past her lips. "You were up late," she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. I forced a smile as I set my watch on the dresser. "Yeah, work stuff," I said casually, my voice smooth, betraying nothing. She hummed in response, shifting under the sheets. "You need to stop working so much," she added, already drifting back to sleep. I stared at her for a long time. It was almost funny. She had spent who knows how many hours wrapped around another man, whispering things to him that should have been for me. And here she was, acting like the concerned wife. Jessica had no idea how close she was to the edge. I felt the anger tighten in my chest again, hot and suffocating, but I turned away before it could show on my face. She could not see it. Not yet. The next morning, I played my part to perfection. I woke up before she did, got dressed like it was any other day, and sat at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee. When she walked in, still in her robe, stretching lazily as if she had not a single care in the world, I did not flinch. She leaned down to kiss my cheek. I let her. "Are you busy today?" she asked, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Yeah," I lied, flipping through my phone like I was not memorizing every single one of her movements. "Meetings all day." She sighed dramatically. "You work too much." Those words might have meant something once. Now they were just noise. She sat across from me, cradling her cup in both hands, and for a brief moment, I wondered how long she had been lying to me. Had it been months? A year? Longer? I did not ask. I just nodded like I was not thinking about the way she had laughed in the car, the way she had whispered to another man. A few minutes later, she stood, running a hand through her hair. "I need to run a few errands today," she said. "Ryan is taking me." Of course, he was. I took another sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch before speaking. "Anything special?" I asked, keeping my tone even. She shook her head. "Just shopping. Maybe lunch with Megan later." Lie. I had checked the recordings. She had used Megan as an excuse more than once. It was one of her go-to covers. I gave her a slow nod. "Sounds nice." If she noticed anything in my voice, she did not show it. She just smiled, grabbed her phone, and walked out of the kitchen. I followed her. Not physically, I was not that kind of man, but I had already set up a remote connection to the car's audio system. As soon as she got in, I would be listening. And I did. I heard the back seat door open, the soft thud as she got in. Then Ryan's voice. "Morning." Casual. Unbothered. "Hey, you." Jessica murmured, her voice softer now. Different. My grip tightened on my coffee cup. They started with small talk, surface level, meaningless. But as soon as the car pulled away, her voice changed. "I missed you." Ryan exhaled. "You just saw me yesterday." "You know what I mean," she said playfully. A pause. A heavy silence thick enough to choke on. Then his voice quieter now. "He is home more often lately." "Yeah," she admitted. "It is making things harder." Harder? I nearly crushed the cup in my hand. You think he knows anything? Ryan asked. Jessica let out a soft chuckle. No, he is completely oblivious. He barely even looks at me when he gets home. A slow burn of rage crawled up my spine. Oblivious? That was what she thought. That I was too stupid to see what was happening right in front of me? Ryan hummed thoughtfully. Maybe we should. The recording cut out for a second. My jaw clenched. Then Jessica's voice returned, quieter now. Not yet. I do not want to ruin things too soon. Too soon? What the hell did that mean? This was not just an affair. They were planning something. Something bigger. My pulse pounded in my ears. I had prepared myself for betrayal. I was ready for the anger, the disgust, the hatred. But this was something else entirely. I had walked into this thinking I was dealing with a cheating wife, someone who had made a disgusting, unforgivable mistake. Now, I was not so sure. Now, I had to find out exactly what they were planning. And when I did, there would not be a place in this world where Jessica could hide from me. Betrayal is an ugly thing. It does not just strike once and fade, it lingers. It burrows deep, poisoning every thought, every breath. I had listened to my wife's voice, mocking, dismissive, plotting, and something inside me had shifted. This was not just infidelity. This was something worse. Jessica and Ryan were not just sneaking around behind my back. They were waiting. For what? I did not know. But when she said, not yet, I did not want to ruin things too soon, I knew this was far from over. They had a plan, and I had a choice. I could storm into the house, confront her right now, demand the truth, let my anger burn everything to the ground. But that would be giving her too much credit. It would let her play the victim, twist the story, make excuses. No, she did not deserve that. She deserved to lose everything. For the next week, I played my role, the clueless husband, the man she thought she had wrapped around her little finger. I went to work, came home, smiled when necessary. I did not touch her. I did not ask where she had been. I did not question why she was suddenly so attentive, why she was always checking her phone, why she left the room to take certain calls. She was trying to cover her tracks. I let her, because the more she thought she was safe, the sloppier she would get. And I wanted everything. I had more recordings now. Every ride she took with Ryan, every conversation, every whispered confession. I listened to them all. Some made me sick. The way she spoke to him, the way she teased him, the way she made it sound like I was some absent fool who had stopped caring. You're the only one who really sees me, Ryan. I think about you all the time. It is getting harder to hide this. I clenched my jaw through every second of it. She thought she was in control. She thought I was blind. I was not. I was watching her. I was listening. And soon, I would be the one holding all the cards. On Friday night, I put the first part of my plan into motion. Jessica was in the shower when I took her phone. I had learned her passcode months ago. She was not careful. She never thought she had to be. I opened her messages first. Jessica thought she was ahead of me. She had no idea how far behind she really was. I scrolled through her messages, my pulse steady, my breathing controlled. Grace, her sister, a few of her friends, all normal conversations. But then there was Ryan. The messages had been deleted. Of course they had. But people like Jessica always made mistakes. I checked her recently deleted folder, and there they were, pages of them. He has been working late again. I can slip out for a few hours. Are you sure? I do not want you to get caught. Do not worry. He never pays attention. I exhaled slowly through my nose. There were dozens of them. Plans, times, locations. Some of them were short, teasing messages. I can still feel you from last night. You are bad. I love it. Disgust curled in my stomach. Then, near the bottom, I found something else. A different kind of message. We should talk about next steps. Not yet. I don't want to rush things. We cannot wait forever. It will be easier if we do it sooner. I know. Let us talk in person. I stared at the words, my grip tightening on the phone. This was not just an affair. They were planning something. What? I did not know yet. But I had a feeling it was not just about sneaking around. There was something bigger at play, and I was going to find out exactly what it was. The next morning, I followed her. She thought I had gone into the office for a meeting. I had even kissed her goodbye, play my role. But instead of heading to work, I waited. At exactly 10:15 a.m., she left the house. Ryan's car was parked a block away. She did not call him to pull up. She walked him, like they were careful, like they had rules. I followed at a distance, keeping just far enough back that she would not notice. They did not go to a hotel. They did not go to some romantic getaway. They went to a house I did not recognize. Jessica let herself in with a key. Ryan followed. I sat outside in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. This was not just some fling. This was established. She had a key. She had an entire life outside of me. I sat there for nearly an hour, letting the weight of it settle in. The rage I had felt before had been sharp, immediate. This was different. This was cold. This was calculation. And if they thought I was going to sit back and let them make a fool out of me, they were dead wrong. I was not just going to confront her. I was not just going to end it. I was going to destroy her. That night, I acted normal. Jessica came home just after 5, carrying shopping bags. Her alibi, no doubt. She kissed me when she walked in, the scent of expensive perfume clinging to her skin. I smiled. "You are in a good mood," she said, setting the bags down. "Long day," I replied easily. "Glad it is the weekend." She beamed. "Me too." And just like that, she slipped into our routine, pretending like everything was fine. Like she had not spent the afternoon wrapped around another man. Like she was not plotting something behind my back. I let her think she was winning. Let her think I was still blind. But in reality, she had already lost. She just did not know it yet. The hardest part of revenge is not the planning. It is not even the execution. It is the waiting, the slow, agonizing patience it takes to let the truth unfold piece by piece. To keep your emotions locked away while the people who have betrayed you go on, blissfully unaware of the storm about to hit them. But I was willing to wait, because when I struck, I was not just going to hurt them. I was going to end them. I spent the weekend gathering information. Jessica thought I was busy, working on emails or watching football, but I was studying her every move. The phone calls she stepped outside to take. The way she checked her reflection twice before leaving the house. The constant glances at her phone when she thought I was not looking. I started noticing things I had ignored before, like how she never left any receipts behind. No crumpled papers in her purse, no leftover shopping bags that were not accounted for. She was meticulous, but not enough. No one is perfect, and I had time. On Monday morning, I checked the car's audio again. The night before, I had wiped the last recording, erasing any trace that I had been listening. The last thing I needed was for Jessica to get suspicious. I sat at my desk with my coffee, popped in my earbuds, and pressed play. The recording started as usual, the hum of the car engine, the shuffle of Jessica sliding into the seat. Then her voice. "I dreamed about you last night." Ryan chuckled. "Oh yeah? Was it a good dream?" "Very." But then I woke up next to him. My grip on the coffee cup tightened until my fingers ached. Ryan sighed. "I do not know how much longer I can do this." Jessica hesitated. "We do not have to wait much longer." Silence. Ryan's voice dropped. "You are sure?" Jessica exhaled. "Yes, but we have to be careful. I do not want to rush things." "You said that last time." "I know, but I cannot just walk away from this without making sure I get what I deserve." "And what do you deserve?" Jessica laughed softly. "Everything." The conversation shifted after that. Small talk, complaints about traffic, but I had heard enough. They were not just having an affair. They were planning something. And now I knew one thing for sure. Jessica was not planning on leaving quietly. She wanted more. She wanted everything. That night, I started digging. I already had access to her phone, but now I needed more. Her emails, her bank statements, her personal files. It did not take much effort. Jessica had always been careless with security, trusting that I would never have a reason to look. I spent hours combing through her accounts, sifting through years of financial transactions. Most of it was normal. Then I found it, a separate bank account, one I had never known about. It had been opened 2 years ago, right around the time she had started requesting Ryan as her driver more often. The balance? Nearly $200,000. Money she had moved from her joint account, little by little, over time. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen, my pulse pounding. This was not just an affair. This was a setup. She was getting ready to leave, and she was making sure she had more than enough to do it comfortably. I clenched my jaw. You think you are smart, Jessica? You think I would not notice? You think you can walk away from this and take everything I built with you? No, that is not how this ends. Tuesday morning, I made my first move. I called my lawyer, not to file for divorce. Not yet. That would be too easy. She would have nothing. Jessica thought she was clever, that she could play this game and walk away unscathed. But the thing about people like her, they always overestimate themselves. They think they are smarter than the people they betray. They believe they are in control. She had no idea just how wrong she was. By the time she realized what was happening, it would be too late. While she was sneaking around, whispering to Ryan about her grand plans, I was dismantling everything she thought she had. First, the finances. Freezing accounts was just the beginning. I had already set the wheels in motion to transfer assets into protected holdings. The house? It was in my name. The car she drove? Registered to me. She thought she was securing her future, but I was ensuring she had no future at all. At least, not the one she had planned. Next, security. I had cameras placed where she would never notice. Microphones tucked away in corners she never paid attention to. She thought she was moving in silence, but every word she spoke was mine to hear. And tonight, she had given me everything. Jessica came home late. I was sitting in the living room, phone in hand, pretending to scroll through emails when she walked in. She smelled different, not her usual perfume. Like him, she smiled at me, casual, carefree. Long day. I forced a small chuckle, as if nothing was wrong. Yeah, you. She stretched, setting her purse down. Exhausting. Liar. She brushed her fingers over my shoulder as she passed by, moving toward the kitchen, and I turned slightly, watching her. I had loved this woman once. I had trusted her. But now, she was the enemy, and she had no idea I was about to take everything from her. That night, while she slept, I checked the house cameras. Jessica had never used the guest bathroom. Yet before bed, she had gone in there. I pulled up the footage. There she was standing by the sink, phone in her hand. I turned up the audio. Her voice was low, cautious. He does not suspect anything. A pause. Ryan's voice over the phone. You are sure? Yes. I will talk to the lawyer soon, but I need to wait for the right moment. I just do not want to get caught. You will not. Just be patient. We will get everything we deserve. Everything they deserve? Something cold settled deep in my chest. This was never just about leaving. She was planning to take me down, to ruin me, to steal everything I had worked for, and she thought she could win. I stared at the screen, watching her smirk at her reflection before tucking her phone away and leaving the bathroom. She was playing a game, but she did not realize I had already won. Patience was never my strong suit, but revenge required restraint. I had everything I needed: recordings, financial records, video proof. I could end it all in a single moment. But that was not enough. I did not just want her out of my life. I wanted her to lose. The next morning, I played my role. Jessica stretched as she walked into the kitchen, yawning, pouring herself coffee like she had not spent the night planning my downfall. Any meetings today? She asked. I shook my head. Nope. Working from home. For a split second, she hesitated. It was quick. So quick most people would have missed it. But I caught it. I had just ruined her plans. Good. She scrolled through her phone, probably texting Ryan, adjusting whatever pathetic scheme they were working on. I might go shopping later, she said lightly. I need a few things for the house. I sipped my coffee. Ryan driving you? Another hesitation. Yeah, he is already scheduled for the afternoon. Of course, he was. I let my eyes linger on her just a little too long, just enough to see if she would react. She did not. She still thought I was blind. Perfect. At 1:30 p.m., she left. I did not follow. I did not need to. The car was wired. The cameras were rolling. She was not going shopping. She was going to him. I tapped into the car's audio as soon as she climbed inside. The door shut. A second of silence. Then Ryan spoke. Everything good? Jessica sighed. Yeah. He is home today, though. Ryan let out a quiet breath. That is risky. I know, but I have to be careful. I think he has been stressed lately. I do not want him getting suspicious. Too late for that, sweetheart. Ryan was silent for a moment. Then, you talked to the lawyer yet? Jessica hesitated. Not yet. I need to figure out the best way to do it without him seeing it coming. My jaw clenched. So that was the plan? Blindside me, drain the accounts, walk away with everything. I almost laughed. She really thought she was in control. She had no idea she was already drowning. That night, while she slept, I took her phone again. This time, I did more than just check her messages. I installed tracking software. Every call, every text, every location sent straight to me. Now, there'd be no secrets. And just as I was about to put the phone back, I saw something new. An email from a divorce attorney. My pulse stayed steady as I clicked it open, skimming through the contents. Mrs. Reynolds, as per our last conversation, I have drafted the initial paperwork for the divorce proceedings. Once you are ready, we can proceed with filing. Let me know when you would like to move forward. She had not sent a response yet, but she was close. She was getting ready to pull the trigger. I inhaled slowly, my mind racing. She thought she was being smart. She thought she could play this game and come out on top. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. I slipped the phone back on her nightstand and climbed into bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, the weight of my fury pressing down on my chest. She wanted a war. She was about to get one. The next morning, I played my role to perfection. Jessica kissed me goodbye, smiling as she grabbed her purse and phone. She was leaving early, which meant she was meeting him. I waited until she was gone, then tapped into the tracker. Her location popped up on my screen. A hotel, not the same house as before. They were switching things up, trying to be careful. I smirked bitterly. Too bad for them. I was always one step ahead. I let them have their little rendezvous. Let them believe they were safe. Then I made my next move. At exactly 1 p.m., I walked into my bank, and I froze our joint accounts. Every last dollar. Jessica would not notice right away. She had her secret stash, after all. But soon, when she tried to access anything connected to me, she would realize she no longer had control. Step 1, complete. Next, I call my lawyer. I want to start the process, I said calmly. Divorce, yes, but not yet. First, I want a full investigation into my wife's finances. I need to know where every dollar is going. There was a pause, then a slow exhale. You think she's hiding something? I let out a cold chuckle. I know she is. Find it. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair. The pieces were moving. Jessica thought she was about to win. She had no idea the walls were already closing in around her. And soon, she would have nothing. Jessica had no idea she was already drowning. She walked into the house that night, late again, her usual casual smile in place, acting like nothing had changed. But I knew where she had been. I knew who she had been with. And when she leaned down to kiss me, I let her, because soon that smug little act was going to shatter. She was about to learn the most important lesson of her life. You do not betray me and walk away unscathed. I was going to take her down, and when I was done, she would have nothing. Betrayal changes a man. Not just how he thinks, not just how he moves. It changes everything. I used to be the kind of husband who trusted without question. I worked late nights, believing I was building something for both of us. I assumed love and loyalty went hand in hand. Not anymore. That man was dead, and the man who had taken his place, he was about to ruin her. Jessica came home that night with the same fake smile, the same empty warmth in her voice. Long day, she asked as she set her purse down, stretching like she had not spent the afternoon tangled up with another man. I looked up from my laptop, keeping my face blank. Yeah, you. She yawned. Exhausting. I ran so many errands today. Liar. I nodded, pretending to be focused on work, but I was watching her closely. She walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone. Probably checking messages from Ryan. I already knew what they said. I had been reading them all day. That night, while she slept, I checked her secret bank account, the one she thought I did not know about. The balance had dropped. $20,000 had been withdrawn. I stared at the transaction, my mind piecing it together. She was moving the money, preparing for something, probably setting up another account, somewhere harder to trace. I smirked. She thought she was careful. She thought she was ahead of me. She had no idea I had already started dismantling her escape route. I clicked a few buttons, accessing the financial controls I had put in place earlier that morning. Then, with one final keystroke, I froze that account too. Every dollar she thought she had, gone. Let us see how she handled that. The next morning, Jessica left early. She thought I was asleep when she kissed my cheek and whispered, "I will see you later." I was not asleep. I was waiting for her to leave so I could watch everything unfold. I logged into my tracking system, watching as her location popped up. She was not heading to Ryan, not to the house, not to the hotel. She was going to a bank. I nearly laughed. She was going to check her account, and in a few minutes, she was going to realize she had nothing. I leaned back in my chair, coffee in hand, and waited. It took about 20 minutes before I got the first sign of panic. A text popped up on my monitoring feed. Something is wrong. My account is frozen. I smirked. A minute later, another text. What do you mean? How? I do not know. I tried to withdraw some cash, and they said the account was locked. I need to figure out what happened. Shit. What if he knows? I imagine the way her stomach must have dropped when she read that. I imagine the way her face must have twisted in worry, her mind racing, trying to figure out if I'd caught on. I was not going to give her an answer. Not yet. I wanted her to stew in it, to wonder, to panic. Jessica came home earlier than usual that night. Her smile was gone. Her expression was tight, careful, like she was testing the air, try to pick up on any signs that I knew. I did not say anything at first. I kept my focus on my laptop, like I had no idea what she had been doing all day. She hesitated, then cleared her throat. Hey, something weird happened today. I looked up, feigning confusion. Weird how? She bit her lip. I think there was some kind of mistake with the bank. One of my accounts got frozen. I furrowed my brows, keeping my voice casual. That is strange. Did you call them? Yeah. They would not tell me much. Huh. I shrugged, taking a sip of coffee. Banks screw things up all the time. I am sure it will get sorted. Her eyes scanned my face, searching for any hint of suspicion. I gave her nothing. I went back to my work, pretending like I had already forgotten about it. She hovered near the counter for a few seconds, then nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, you're probably right. She turned away, walking toward the bedroom. I waited until I heard the door close before I let my smirk return. She was unraveling. Good. She still had Ryan. For now. But that was next. Tomorrow, I was going to burn that relationship to the ground. She thought she had a plan. She thought she could control this. She had no idea the walls were closing in around her. And soon, Jessica would lose everything. Daniel's face turned a shade paler, his fingers twitching against the edge of the table. He was scared. Good. He started, but I cut him off again. I'm not here to negotiate, Daniel. I'm not here to argue, or to listen to whatever pathetic excuse you have been telling yourself to justify what you have done. I leaned back in my chair, my expression calm, composed. I am here to make sure you understand that this is over. And if you do not walk away right now, if you so much as breathe in her direction again, there will be consequences. His eyes darted around the bar, as if searching for an escape. He knew he had no way out of this. You do not get it, he finally said, his voice hoarse. She told me. I let out a quiet laugh. She told you what? That you two had a future? That she was going to leave me for you? I shook my head. You really think you were anything more than a convenience to her? Daniel opened his mouth, then shut it. I could see it. The realization, the slow, creeping horror as he replayed every conversation he had ever had with Jessica. Every promise she had made. Every whispered assurance that she would leave me soon, that it was only a matter of time. He had been a fool, and now he knew it. I stood up, adjusting my jacket. This is your last chance to walk away with whatever dignity you have left, Daniel. Take it. He did not argue. He did not try to plead his case. He just sat there, shoulders slumped, defeated. I had won. I walked out of the bar without another word. That night, Jessica came home, her face drawn, her movements cautious. She was unraveling faster now, her confidence fading with every passing second. She had tried to access her frozen accounts again. She had spent most of the afternoon on the phone with the bank, getting nowhere. She had texted Ryan multiple times, and when he finally answered, his response had been clipped, distant. He was pulling away. She could feel it. I could see the worry in her eyes when she glanced at me over dinner. The way she kept waiting for something, for the other shoe to drop. But I was not going to give her that satisfaction. Not yet. You were quiet tonight, she finally said, forcing a small smile as she poked at her food. I shrugged. Long day. She hesitated. Then, in a voice that was just a little too careful, she asked, "Anything interesting happen?" I smirked. She was fishing, wondering if I knew, wondering if the world she had built in the shadows was starting to crumble around her. I leaned back in my chair, taking a sip of wine before answering. "Nope," I said smoothly. "Just another normal day." She swallowed hard and nodded. "Yeah, same here." Liar. I watched her for a moment longer before going back to my meal, letting the silence stretch between us. She had no idea that tomorrow, everything would come crashing down. Tomorrow, I would finally tell her. Tomorrow, she would realize just how badly she had lost. And I was going to enjoy every second of it. Jessica sat there, frozen, gripping her phone like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart completely. Her breathing was uneven, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at me. I did not move. I just let the silence stretch, let the weight of everything press down on her. The fear in her eyes was intoxicating. Finally, she swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. What were you talking about?" I chuckled, slow and deep. "Oh, come on, Jessica." I shook my head, my tone almost amused. "Do not insult me with the act. Not after everything." She flinched. She knew. She did not know how much. I straightened, walking around the bed, deliberately taking my time as I loosened my tie and rolled up my sleeves. I could feel her gaze locked onto me, her breath hitching slightly as I moved. "You thought you were so smart," I mused, pacing slowly. "You thought you had it all figured out. You had your escape plan, your secret accounts, your little affair." I turned, my expression unreadable. "And yet, here you are, trapped." Jessica shook her head quickly. I do not know what you are talking about." I exhaled sharply, a dark chuckle escaping. "Still pretending?" Even now, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. "Then let me remind you." I tapped the screen, pressed play, and then her own voice filled the room. "You will not. Just be patient. We will get everything we deserve." Jessica's breath caught. The color drained from her face. She scrambled to grab her phone, her fingers shaking as she tried, desperately, to open something, anything. But she already knew. There was nothing left. Her accounts were frozen. Ryan was gone. Her lawyer had probably left her multiple messages by now, all saying the same thing. "You have nothing." I let her sit in that suffocating realization for a long, agonizing moment before I spoke again. "You plan to take everything from me," I murmured. "My money, my house, my life." I tilted my head slightly. "But you were never going to win, Jessica." Her lips parted, but no words came out. I leaned in again, my voice a whisper. "Did you really think you could outplay me?" She still said nothing. Because she knew. She knew. She had lost. I stood up, watching as she sat there, motionless, staring down at her phone like it might magically fix everything. It would not. She was done. "Get dressed." I said, my tone flat. "We need to talk." Jessica hesitated. "Talk about what?" I gave her a slow, knowing smile. "About how you were going to walk away from this with nothing."